another episode of the Dawg House Podcast. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about the big commitment of quarterback Dylan Raiola committing to Georgia, how that's going to change the landscape of the quarterback room. Also, going to talk about how Georgia-Florida game is going to look differently in the future. And then also, we're going to have a great guest, Robert Reynolds from the DGD podcast. He's so gracious to come on. How are we doing today, Robert?
Do well, man. It's another day with another five-star quarterback commitment, right? Not used to these things.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. Also, if you could like, subscribe, and share the podcast, trying to get those numbers up, that'll really help us out. But yeah, jumping right into it, Robert, got a huge commitment this week from Dylan Raiola out of Phoenix, Arizona. Probably one of the most decorated commits maybe since Justin Fields. So how big is this, and how do you think it's going to affect the quarterback room at UGA?
Well, first off, I mean, it's huge, right? I think if you look at the numbers, that's the sixth five-star quarterback we've ever had in program history, right? That tells you a lot right there. Listen, I think the impact that he's going to have it's astronomical for what it means to Georgia. You talk about Justin Fields, which is like almost back with Trevor Lawrence was 1A, 1B. But now that you've got a legitimate number one overall prospect, especially at the quarterback position, that's huge for Georgia. And I think, evolutionary for the offense, if you look at it that way, from a recruiting standpoint, for sure.
Yeah, completely agree. Sound like he might have been silent for a little while, but wanted to make things public. I looked at a little bit of his film. To me, I know some people said maybe, I know that's high praise, but Patrick Holmes-esque. I was kind of seeing CJ Stroud a little bit. Can really just thread the needle on there. Great accuracy. Can roll out when he has to. Kind of has that long frame. Which I would take to CJ Stroud, of course, even though we beat him last year. But what's your thoughts on any comparisons for him and what you think of him?
I mean, me personally, I've heard slight comparisons to Pat Mahomes. Listen, that's a lofty comparison right there. But I saw if you watch his highlight tape and things like that, the way he's able to extend plays with his feet, alter his body, throw with different launch angles, different launch points, things like that. The comparisons to that make sense to me. You could see a little bit of other folks. I don't necessarily really have a true comparison yet. I kind of get the Mahomes. Just my thing is the arm, right? It's not like a 1% type elite world class arm, and he's got a very good arm. So don't misinterpret what I'm saying. But it's not like a Josh Allen where it's just legitimately one of the strongest arms in the world either. But I think his playmaking, his ability to extend plays, alter his body, alter his arm to, like I said, at different launch points. I think that's literally the way I could see where the Pat Mahomes come from.
Yeah, completely agree on that. I'm really excited about it. And I guess just kind of, I don't want to sound like the doomsday dog here, but looking on the other hand, hopefully we'll have Carson Beck, does really well this year, and he'll be a one and done, hopefully. And then the quarterback room with currently you got BVG, Brock Vandagriff, Gunnar Stockton, and then you got now Dylan Raiola coming in. You think maybe one of those, of course you don't know till he gets on campus, think one of those guys transfers. Also, I forget the other kid that we have. If he comes on too, he's a 4-star, pretty high.
Gunnar?
Or I'm talking about for this class with Dylan Raiola.
Ryan Puglisi.
So how do you see this quarterback room maybe going forward, maybe after this year?
Well, I'm never one to put any kid specific into the portal, but so you have the anticipation that Carson Beck is a starter, right? He has a good year. You see him leaving, right? So you bring in, now that's 4 quarterbacks. Just odds and the probability tell me that one of them's going to leave, right? I'm not going to say who specifically, but I could see one leaving. You don't want to see 2 leave, right? If anything, you want one to leave at most. But then you sit there and you have a quarterback competition, right? You look into, depending on how far ahead you want to look, right? You have You have the two quarterbacks, like obviously with Raiola and Puglisi in the 24 class coming in. I don't see Georgia picking up a quarterback in the 25 cycle now because you have these two guys here.
Right.
Obviously, things are subject to change but if things stay put, I don't see Georgia hitting a 25 quarterback, and then all hands on deck for Juju Lewis in 26, and then just ride it out that way. So.
Is that a big name to know? That's the first time I've heard his name.
Absolutely. Julian Lewis he's out of Carrollton, Georgia. That is the quarterback to watch. If anybody hasn't watched him or hasn't heard of him, I highly suggest you get quite familiar with that name and in a quick hurry.
Okay. I will definitely check him out. So is that he a freshman this year? Is that 3 years? I know 2026 way down the road. So
yeah, he was a freshman this year, and ultimately, I mean, I don't know how to explain it. I think by the time he's a senior in high school, Georgia State records are looking to be replaced, if you know what I mean. I think that kid is that good. He's good. He's good.
That's great to hear. I'll definitely check him out. I guess also want to mention with this Dylan Raiola commitment, do you think this is a little bit of the Mike Bobo effect, or it's just where Georgia's headed as a program? I know Todd Monken leaving. Do you think we still get him with Todd Monken stays another year, or is this Mike Bobo being an elite recruiter?
I think you look at this commitment as a relationship driven. I'm not saying it's the ultimate driver, right? I don't think it's the only driver, if you will. But I do think the Bobo connection there with Matt Stafford and all these connections played a huge role there. Listen, when you get a quarterback like that of that level, I think you have to show the plan, right? What's the plan for him at Georgia if he were to commit to Georgia, right? So I'm sure even if Monken was there, I'm sure there would have been a plan in place. Obviously Todd Monken leaves to go to Baltimore. Obviously you realize that it didn't take 15 minutes for Bobo to be the new OC.
Exactly.
I think there was a legitimate reason why you saw that immediate replacement. I think that was all intentions there. Honestly, I know that sounds crazy, but just if you think about this time last year, right? Georgia's all in on the Arch Bannon sweepstakes. Maybe it was a blessing in disguise that Arch went to Texas over Georgia because, I mean, in my opinion, I think the fact that when Arch signed with Texas, I think that opened up Georgia's pathway for Raiola. And I mean, in my opinion, I think Raiola's just a little bit better than Arch. So that's just my thought on that.
I thought the same thing too. And no offense to him, I know it was a spring game, but to me, Manning kid looked a little lost on Texas. He was overthrowing guys. I know it's a spring game, and then the fact that they made Quentin Ewers pretty much named the starter after the spring maybe says he's not ready.
I think it solidified it, but at the same time, when it comes to I know this is a Georgia podcast, but when it comes to Texas, watch out for Malik. Malik Murphy? I think it is, or what's his name over there? There's another quarterback there. That kid is good too. But obviously, the hype that comes with the Manning name, right? Like you have to be an elite program to handle that kind of the hype and drama that comes with it, if you will. But I mean, there's a lot of speculations that is Arch the best quarterback in the 23 class, right? Like we'll see, right? I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna bash a kid for a spring game performance. That'd be silly too. But but I mean, at this point in time, I would listen. I just think Raiola can do the things, and I feel like he's a better quarterback. Time will tell. Time will tell.
Right. I do like it might be a blessing in disguise. Hopefully we do get Dylan, Dylan Raiola, because you know how it is these days. Somebody might back him with a bag full of cash and flip him. But I like the whole just not because when you had Arch Manning on campus, it would have been like every day or every other day at practice. How's Arch looking? How's he looking? How's he looking? To be all this circus around it. So I kind of like this Dylan Raiola, great 5-star, and kind of taking all the drama out of it. So I like that. It might be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, there's still going to be some drama because he's the number 1 overall guy, right? Sure. But when you look at the same time, though, I think you do look at the Manning name. Now, Raiola is a prominent name, right? I think you look at his dad playing center in Detroit for a long time, right? But it's nowhere near the level of magnetism and the view, if you will, that a Manning would bring. So I think you're right. I think it kind of could be a little bit of a blessing in disguise because Yeah, I mean, Georgia right now, I think Carson Beck. I think Carson Beck is a great quarterback. I think he'll have a great season. Brock Vandagriff and Gunnar Stockton are both really good quarterbacks too. But if you brought in a guy like Arch Manning with the anticipation that he's going to start like right away or 1 year after, it really throws a loop with two other guys. Do you want to risk losing two quarterbacks just for one that might not even be what everybody thinks he will be? You know what I mean? So I think the blessing in disguise has happened a little bit too.
Yeah. Definitely looked pretty good there. And then I wanted to touch on this really quick, just because he looks like he's rumored to be in town. Think we got any shot at Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State commit, 5-star wide receiver. He's in town. Any chance of him, you think?
Well, I tell you this: if anyone's going to flip him from Ohio State, it would be Georgia. The connection between Jeremiah and Dylan Raiola was huge. I mean, if you listen to his comments when asked about Dylan's commitment to Georgia, I think it opened it up to where he's got to take looking at playing at Georgia seriously now, right? So I think that is a big deal. He's going to be here for the scavenger hunt this upcoming weekend. That's a big deal, right? I mentioned this Monday on my show when right after Dylan committed, the scavenger hunt just got a lot more interesting, especially with him coming on an official visit too, by the way. I would expect Georgia to give him the full red carpet treatment, fly Dylan out from Arizona, and just give him the best possible visit you could imagine, try to blow him away. Ultimately, time will tell if we are able to flip him, because you have to understand with Ohio State, the elite receivers go there, right? They understand Hartline will develop them. The track record is there, right? Elite receivers. Jeremiah Smith is a bona fide dude. That's all I'm going to say. The kid, if you took and swapped Dylan and Jeremiah, I wouldn't be mad at all. Wow. I would not be mad. He's that good. Without a doubt, best receiver in this class for me. I know there's some receivers that Georgia's looking at that are really up there too, but I think Jeremiah just separates himself from the other ones.
Right. Yeah, it looks like 6'3", 198. Any comparisons who he looks at for you, or if you had to say?
Oh man, I haven't really thought about comparisons for him specifically. I mean, I just feel like you got a bona fide X receiver that can take the top off of a defense. There's really no flaws in his game at this point in time for me. I don't really know if a name to compare him to, but
I don't want to. I know I'm throwing.
I want him.
Yeah, if I don't want to throw out big names because he's probably one of the DGDs. Kind of just I watched a little bit of video, probably 4 or 5 minutes. Kind of has that long, fast, kind of long frame. I'm gonna say maybe almost like and it's just as 6'2", 6'3", AJ Green-esque. I know that's a big name. But this
I think I could see that.
Yeah,
that might be fair to say, I suppose. I mean, body, like from a measurable perspective, I'm just curious to see, like, AJ Green coming out of high school was something else. Jeremiah's going to be like that. I just feel like coming wherever he goes to college, he's going to be like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know it's big shoes to fill, but hey, I'd definitely take another AJ Green, especially with the quarterbacks we got in. So
you and me both. You and me both.
So for sure. Also, wanted to really appreciate the our sponsor here, Viva Tequila Seltzer. Been over a year sponsor for us. Zero sugar. If you're out on the golf course, you want to tailgate, have a nice cold beverage at the pool, check out Viva Tequila Seltzer here. Elderberry, huckleberry, grapefruit. Actually, just tried their new watermelon as my favorite. So check out vivatequilaseltzer.com, one of our great sponsors here. And if you want 20% off, Hustle 20, get 20% off on your checkout. So I really appreciate them being on. And then one other thing I wanted to touch on, Georgia, Florida. I know there's been some, rumors out there, people talking about that possibly they're going to do renovations to, I guess it's TIA. I know it's been all different type of names.
TIAA Bank Field, I think is what it is now.
That's right. I'm sure you've been there plenty of times. I've been there, I believe, 8 to 10 times. Are you a Jacksonville guy? Do you want to maybe see it change for the home and home coming up with the renovations? Do you like it, long term there? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, for me, I mean, I see both sides. I see arguments to both sides on this. When you look at Jacksonville as an area, right? It's not just a game day thing. It's a week long event, right? The cocktail party is a week long event. You have a lot of South Georgia folks. That's their one game that's closer for them to go to than to go to Athens. Myself, I'm not from Georgia. I'm from North Carolina, so
Okay.
I would like to see Florida home and home. The last time you look at it was like what 93, 94, something like that. I think it was early to mid 90s. I know Juan Daniels told me so. But, when you think about it, I don't know. I feel like I should say home and home just because, just imagining, right, 93,000 Georgia fans, right? Like absolutely just going ballistic over the fact that you've got the Florida Gators in Athens.
That's
Well,
right.
I understand the tradition. I understand all of that. Just something about that would be like, I would gladly drive 4.5 hours to watch that game. I don't care how good or bad Florida is. We all hate Florida. Um, I kind of want to see what it looks like in a modern day, right? Because when I was just born roughly around that time, so when they started doing that, so I wasn't old enough to really get into the home and home, not to that level. So I think what'll happen though is if because they're doing the renovations, right? I definitely think it'll be worth watching and analyzing, if you will, to see what it's like, right? For even if it's just a year or 2 years, right?
Right.
I think it'll be awesome to see what that's like because, I mean, outside of the mid '90s, when do you think we'd ever see Florida coming to Athens again, or us going to the swamp, right? Like I didn't expect it. So, but you always, obviously this question comes up every time the contract renews.
Right.
I would like to see a home and home, but I think what'll happen for me, my ultimate verdict would be after the home and home, kind of assess the games and how they played and the environment and all that stuff. Just soak that in, and then really kind of say, all right, I want a home and home every year, or I keep it at Jacksonville. That's fine.
Right.
But I'm ready to see a home and home. I'm more than ready to see a home and home.
Yeah, I completely agree. Kind of like I'm kind of, I've been there, done that. I've been there 8 or 10 times. I forget what it was. And I'm kind of on Kirby's side. Helps out with recruiting. You get that other week to bring elite recruits in. It would give us a reason to go to the swamp and see in Jacksonville, and also, like you said, have the lousy stinking Gators coming in. If there was some way, might be a weird way to set it up. If there was like maybe have it every 3 years, have it home and home, and then like a Jacksonville. So that would actually give a kid, even if he went to the NFL, give him a chance to maybe play once every year at a different
Yeah.
location and get like the full effect. I know that would be kind of tough.
I've heard some things too, like to add to that point, like do a 4 year where you do home and home,
Yeah,
Jacksonville, Atlanta, and then rotate it back.
that'd be great too.
Ultimately, I think at the end of the day, for me, I just want to see what that home and home looks like, right? In modern day, just think about this, Trey. Within the past 5-10 years, it used to be right 5 years ago, right? 5 years ago, it was Georgia and Florida determining the East.
All right.
Just imagine that at a home and home, right? Imagine because you get the Iron Bowl at home,
Right.
you get Michigan, Ohio State home and home.
Right.
Now, I think we're only one of three that are at neutral sites yearly. You got the cocktail party, obviously. You've got the Red River Shootout, and then you've got Army Navy.
Right.
So, I understand the tradition and you're an exclusive group, but this home and home, I think it opened up a can of worms potentially, depending on how things go.
Yeah. Completely agree. And for years, I know Florida's kind of took a step back, but for years, though, usually the SEC East, even though the East is going away, ran through Jacksonville. So it could run through Athens, it could run through the swamp. So, yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, one of the last things I wanted to touch on, that maybe not the biggest name, transfer portal looks like Len'Neth Whitehead, if I pronounce his name, coming over from Florida. I'm sorry,
Yep.
actually Tennessee, coming over from there. I texted a buddy. he said he looked okay in some of the games. I know he's been banged up a little bit, 4-star add depth. So was this move maybe to say we're not secure at the running back room, we're a little lacking there, kind of a weak spot for Georgia? What's your thoughts on the running back room? Got a lot of guys, just unproven.
Well, I think a lot of it too is just shows you how banged up we were in the spring, right? If you look at the spring game, right, you look at what Dejon Edwards was somewhat limited. You had Branson Robinson, like Kendall was out. Like you literally had like one scholarship running back almost, right? Roderick Robinson was your scholarship guy. And also you lose Savon Clark, right? That's your walk on. So getting Len'Neth Whitehead, I mean, think about it. He came out of Athens Academy, by the way. So you get a 4-star from the city, if you will, to come back, and you didn't even have to do a scholarship. He came back on as a PWO. So you're basically replacing Savon with Len'Neth Whitehead. And yeah, I mean, you were right. He was hurt for most of the season. But if you've watched some of his play, some of his tape, the dude's a hard runner. And I feel like he has the potential for breakaway speed. And you start to wonder how that translates into the running back room. Just because he's a PWO does not mean that he will not play. I definitely see you can piecing him into that rotation. Maybe that's what Bobo wants. Think about it, guys. I mean, you've got Kendall Milton, right? With question marks if he can stay healthy, right? Obviously, we never want to wish injury for anybody. But if Kendall stays healthy, then you look at Branson Robinson, and then you're looking at, right, you've got a lot of talent there. But it never hurts to have 5 guys, right? Kirby's always wanted 5 scholarship running backs on at all times. I think you look at, Andrew Paul, right, coming off the ACL last year. You got Branson and Roderick and Kendall, Dejon. So maybe now if you add Len'Neth Whitehead in there, maybe you're not pressing for someone and hoping for them to have a quicker than expected recovery. You can ease them back in and then do what you need to do. Yeah, it looks like I love the pickup, especially as a preferred walk-on. Love the pickup.
Exactly. Added depth to it. I give you 6 guys. SEC schedule's a grind, so you get banged up a little bit.
It gives you insurance policy as well if someone gets hurt as well.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's great thoughts. Yeah, also wanted to give a shout out to you. Robert's part of the DGD podcast. He's on all Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Also got YouTube. Want to give a shout out to that. I think you guys usually do once or twice a week.
We typically go Monday and Wednesdays at noon Eastern time.
Nice.
So we just run typically that time's myself, former receiver Juan Daniels, played with Kirby Smart back in the mid-90s. Awesome. Kobe Pierce, he was a special teamer, long snapper. Show some love for the long snapper. Actually played under Kirby Smart there. So it's just us basically just talking ball and keep it up with all things dogs. So
that's awesome. And one last thing I want to say, how long have you been in the podcast game and how'd you get started? Because I know it's growing for everybody, but I think it's always great to meet a fellow podcaster.
Yeah, so I got started during COVID, really. I kind of, just watching ball and everything, and it's kind of just transpired from watching football to, going into a Facebook group, going live and just talking and waiting for people to pop up. And it's like, someone just casually says, "Hey, you should maybe do a podcast. Look into it." Sure. And made me pontificate on it and, ponder a little bit. And there we go. Next thing you know, start up a podcast. But yeah, no, I think, it's fun when you have, a passion for something that you enjoy, right? I think it makes it easier to do. And it just so happens that, listen, I'm not saying that I'm not going to stop because Georgia starts doing this, but if Georgia is winning, everyone's winning. Right. So, so you sit there, you look at that right there. It's one of the, the timing of it, if Georgia starts losing, we still gonna have to talk about that. Right. But no, it's just something that, you have, engagement with, with fans and followers of the show, live viewers in the chat, you hear so many inputs and stuff like that. It just kind of keeps conversation going and fresh. which kind of helps, just keeps driving keeps fueling the fire.
Right. Yeah, so everybody, please check out DGD Podcast on YouTube. Also, that looks like they do it twice a week, Monday and Wednesday, like you said. Check them out on all the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Switcher, all those. And we really appreciate you coming on, Robert. And
Absolutely, man.
Go Dogs, man. And we got a lot to look forward to headlines in the summer.
Absolutely. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. And that's another episode of the Dawg House Podcast. Please check us out. Like, subscribe, and share us. We'll see you on down the road.